Gym, 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 God, your move. So when we're going through the gym of life, the response that we get is not a miracle. The response that we get is a directive. So when we ask the question, God, your move, the response is to sow. That's going to be the framework they're going to be operating out of today. SOW. The response is to sow. I'm going to say this real quick. I'm going to say it up front. God gives seed to the sower. So the response for the movement is to sow. All right, let's break it down. What is sowing? Sowing is showing up. Showing up. Okay? One of the things I want you to understand is that you can't press in the past and you can't press in the future. You can only press in the present. Tomorrow has enough worries of its own. We have to forget the things that are behind us. So we're allowing ourselves, if we're focused on the past, to get caught up hanging out with depression. And when we're thinking so far into the future, we're allowing ourselves to hang out and get caught up with anxiety. So the place that we're supposed to be in, or we should operate in, is the present, because we can't control the past and we can't control the future. We can plan for it, but you can't control it. The moment that you can control is this now moment, which is the present moment. So the present requires your presence. The present requires your presence. So if you're going to show up to your problem, if you're going to show up to the situation, if you're going to show up to the circumstance, if you're going to show up to the thing that you're wanting to change, then you have to be present. You can't be absent of mind or absent of motion. You have to be here. You have to be willing to participate in your own rescue. The second part is obey. You got to obey the process. You got to be obedient in the process. One of the things that I love about my mom, she was an amazing cook, right? And y'all know how it is. You go to college and you're like, Mom, I want to make that recipe that you made at home, because I'm trying to impress somebody. And she says, okay, here's the recipe. Tell me how it went. And then all of a sudden, 3 hours later, you call Mom and you're like, Mom, it didn't happen the way that I thought it was supposed to happen. And then she goes back down. She says, honey, did you follow the recipe? And you're like, yeah, Mom, I followed the recipe. Okay. Then she says, did you preheat the oven to 450 for 15 minutes? What's the pause? Did you preheat the oven? Okay. What kind of bowl did you use? Was it the cast iron one or was it the clear one? I used the clear one. Boy, I never bake in clear. I bake only in cast iron. Did you mix the ingredients the right way? Yeah. You know what? I forgot to crack the eggs. I put the whole egg inside. Right? I put the whole egg inside. And so here's the thing. When you're operating with your coach and when you're operating with the rules, inside of the rules, whatever those rules are, they need to be followed. Right? They need to be followed. You can't remix, put your own little, hey, let me go ahead and no nutmeg, I'm just going to put cinnamon. You can't remix the recipe. I'm going to say it again. You cannot remix the recipe and believe that the outcome is going to be what it was designed to be. You can't remix the recipe and believe that the outcome is going to be what it's designed to be. The third part of this equation is to withstand and to endure. You got to withstand and you got to endure. One of the things that I like saying is that there's no such thing as instant grits. Right? Yeah, there's no such thing as instant grits. Like, let's really think about it real quick. In order to make grits, it still takes about 3 to 5 minutes. Right? You're using water or you're using milk. Take it out of the package, put it in the microwave. It still takes about 3 to 5 minutes. There was nothing instant about that process. If you go a little bit further, before the grits got to you, before you bought it at the store, it had to grow. Then it had to be harvested. Then it had to be packaged. Then it had to be shelved. Then it got to you. There was nothing instant about the process. So we cannot allow ourselves to believe that we should run away from the time that it takes to endure the process. If Coach Dwight says, hey, this program is going to take 9 months, and in these 9 months, it's going to change your life, and you abort at 6, you can't say the process didn't work if you didn't give the process its proper time. We have to give the process its proper time. Say that. Give the process its proper time. Give the process its proper time. Here's what I want you to understand. Whatever you're working on is working on you. Whatever you're working on is working on you, and you need to give that process its proper time. There was a wise man that was approached by a young man in his community. And the young man in the community came to the wise man and he says, I want to get strong. And so the wise man told the young man, see that rock over there? I want you to push the rock for 30 minutes every day. And so every day for 3 months, the young man would go to the rock and push and push and push. Every day for 3 months, the young man would go to the rock and push and push and push. Every day for 3 months, the young man would go to the rock and push and push and push. The young man came back to the wise man and he says, I've been pushing the rock for 3 months and I haven't been able to move it. The rock's still in the same place. It hasn't even moved an inch. And the wise man said to the young man, he says, when you came to me, you asked me, or you told me that you wanted to get strong. I never told you to move the rock. I told you to push it. I never told you to move the rock. I told you to push it. And then he sat back and he asked this question. He said, have you looked yourself in the mirror lately? Because the man that I see doesn't look like the man that came to me. Your shoulders are broader. Your arms are bigger. Your legs are stronger. Your abs are defined. Whatever you are working on is working on you. I'm not sure if you guys have ever seen this movie, but this is one of my favorite movies. It's a football movie. It's called Facing Giants. And there was a scene in the movie about the death crawl. And so the coach says to Brock, he says, Brock, you're the leader of this team, okay? I want you to put this guy on your back, and I want you to take him to the 50-yard line. Could you do that? He says, I think I can. And he says, no, I want you to resolve in your mind, no matter how hard, no matter how much it hurts, that you're going to give everything that you got to get to the 50-yard line. Could you do that, Brock? He says, Coach, I'll try. He says, no, resolve, I'll do it. And so he begins to crawl with this 145-pound man on his back. He's moving, crawling. The coach is with him. The coach is with him, like Coach Dwight. He's with you. He's saying, keep it going. You can do it. You can do it. You can do it. You can do it. I know it hurts. Keep it going. Keep it going. You can do it. Keep it going. You can do it. You can do it. And Brock continues to crawl. He's screaming and he's in pain. One of the things that I forgot to tell you guys, though, is that the coach put a blindfold on Brock. And I was talking to Will earlier today. And I said, Will, sometimes obscurity is your best friend. And sometimes clarity is your enemy. Because if you know what the road, if you know what the full road looks like, if you know what the full picture looks like, you might quit along the way. And so Brock continued to do this thing with the blindfold on. He continued to move. His coach was with him. He continued to move. He continued to move. He continued to move. And the coach says, Brock, you just made it to the end zone. So he went another 50 yards because he was encouraged along the way. Last April, I had the beautiful opportunity to take 50 days off. Say that, 50 days off. And I took 40 days of those 50 days to walk 561 miles from France to Spain. I needed to do that for me. Because what I didn't tell you was, before this, I was going through a 3.5-year divorce. I paid $80,000 just to get divorced. I accepted the responsibility of $736,000 in debt just so that I could have my freedom, because I wasn't able to move for 3.5 years. See, the thing is, you can make more money, you just can't make more time. And so I winded up selling my property for $1.2 million so that I could have more time and give the gift that God gave me an opportunity. So I walked those 561 miles up and down the mountains in negative 2 degree weather, in the rain, in sleet, in hailstorms, in 15-mile-per-hour winds going up and down mountains. Every day I woke up and I resolved that I was going to do one thing. You know what that one thing was? Walk. Every day I resolved that I was going to move, that I was going to walk. And I'm going to share you guys with the freedom equation because it's going to make a lot of sense. I remember getting to this place, mile marker 0.0. That was one of the best experiences in my life because I got to Finisterre. They call Finisterre the end of the world. Before I got into Finisterre, I was standing on the top of the mountain, and when I looked back, you know what I couldn't see? I couldn't see France. I couldn't see all the problems that I left behind. I couldn't see all the people that I had to detach from. I couldn't see all the things that were holding me back. When I got to the finish line, I had put so much distance between me and the thing. The freedom equation. The freedom equation states, freedom from anything requires repentance. And I know that word repentance is loaded because it's a religious term. But can I tell you something? You can find it in the Webster Dictionary, so it's not that religious, right? Repentance is a mechanism, it's a tool. It's the catalyst for transformation. Repentance is not just a 180-degree turn. Repentance is more than that. Repentance is turning 180 degrees and putting distance between you and a thing that you're trying to move away from. Without distance, the law of proximity is in play. Because if you're still standing close to the problem, if you're still standing close to the situation, the circumstance, the person, the mindset, and you don't put distance between you and them or that or it still has influence and control over you. So in order for repentance to be repentance, it requires you to put distance between you and it, you and they, you and them, you and the mindset. You have to be okay with detaching. You have to be okay with releasing. You have to be okay with walking away. And here's the thing. Freedom is never met at the decision. When you make up your mind and you decide to say, hey, this is what I want for myself. This is the future that I desire. This is the future that I desire. This is the person that I want to be. This is how many pounds I want to lose. When you do that, you will never meet that freedom at the decision. Can I tell you in the simplest form what freedom actually, what decision actually means? The anatomy of decision in its simplest form. There is no other option. It's a resolve. There is no other option. Alexander the Great was famous for this. He burned a ship. There is no other option. Is there something in your life right now? Is there something that you're dealing with emotionally or mentally or even as it relates to a decision that you want to make that you're trying to put distance between? Resolve. There is no other option. When you're walking, I want you guys to imagine this real quick. I want you guys to imagine this triangle as the middle. Right here, this is a triangle. And when you're walking on this, when you're walking the freedom equation, when you're walking the road of freedom, when you're walking this road, the first intersection that you walk into or intersect with is change. That's when people know, hey, she acting different. You ain't the same. Typically, people see the changes in you before you see the changes in yourself. Right? And the second one that you walk into is transformation. And I got to land this plane real quick with the conversation that me and my son had. My son asked me, he says, Dad, can butterflies become caterpillars? And I said, no, son, butterflies can't become caterpillars. And we argued for about 30 seconds. And he says, Dad, can butterflies become caterpillars? I believe butterflies can become caterpillars. I said, Brown, butterflies cannot become caterpillars. I was like, you know what? Let me give it to you. I said, butterflies cannot become caterpillars, but it doesn't mean that they can't act like them. So once you get to that place of freedom, once you get to that place of breakthrough, once you get to that place of deliverance, it doesn't mean that you can't go back to the same mindset. It doesn't mean that you can't go back to the places that no longer served you. It doesn't mean that you can't go back to the people that were abusing you. It doesn't mean that you can't go back. But here's the truth. You can go back. But then what you have to understand is that you're not a caterpillar even though you're hanging out with them. And the worst thing that you can experience in life is a dream deferred. Knowing that you have the max or the potential to operate in your max, but you still choose to play small. Knowing that you have wings and you could fly, but instead of flying 561 miles, you chose to crawl 561 miles. Freedom has an upfront cost. The question is, are you ready to pay for it?